anticipated. Oh, that's great. Somebody's going.
Colton, you still watching Louder with Crowder? I thought it was only supposed to be 45 minutes.
Damn it, Josephine, I already told you that's on weekdays when it's commercial free. It's Thursday, it's live stream, it's extended.
I don't know why you like it so much. It's not even real news.
Damn it, Josephine, I already done told you it's a combination of relevant news and topics of the day in a package that I find entertaining and palatable to assimilate. At reasonable price, and it helps me unwind.
So this is you relaxed, huh?
Well, I was until you got on my back, Josephine. Now, if you shut that ever-expanding cosmos of a hole you call a mouth, I could get back to it.
So what would need to occur for it to be?
You know it's fake news.
Nope. Fake news is every time you tell folks you got a f***ing thyroid problem. Now, I know you're only trying to make me mad, Josephine. It ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work!
This is why I get so many applications for Not Gay Jared's job.
Fake news.
Nope.
So, to contradict him...
You know it's fake.
Damn it, Josephine! Why you gotta do that? Why you gotta push me? You know it sets me off! Does this make you feel good about yourself? Does it make you feel good about yourself to push my buttons?
Right, relax, I was just joking.
I already done told you, Josephine, it's not funny. These guys are legit.
All right.
Contradictory information of Donald Trump's claim. Do you see that?
So you want to go to the Golden Corral?
I wouldn't go to Golden Corral if you were the last woman on earth and my life depended on it. Not after that last time you went, you're lucky I don't have a f***ing wanted poster of you up on their wall. That is called the It's Cold in Here. We have dances every day of the week. Glad to have them. By the way, huge show today. Huge show. Ben Shapiro's on and Cassie Jaye is on. So we've got the fantastic, unbelievably pretty, very eloquent, charming Cassie Jaye.
And then you got me.
Ben Shapiro. So, producing with me in video studio always is Jared, who is not gay. Follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared. Me at S Crowder. With your thoughts, your comments, your photoshops, I fulfill my legal obligations, drawing conclusions. We good?
We're good. First show back since on Thursday.
First live stream back. Yeah, here on the YouTube. For people who are watching Mug Club members, we also do this on YouTube live stream. Also, you can comment in the YouTube section. Everyone on the team now is commenting a little more in the YouTube comment section because we got a lot of flack for saying, well, why didn't you comment? I was like, well, because you called me a Jew fag. But I understand that it still merits a response.
It does. And also, check the bell.
Yes.
Check the damn bell.
Check the bell if you want to receive notifications. Hey, I forgot. At G. Morgan Jr. is back with us. How are you today,
baby.
sir?
I'm good.
What's the wine of the day?
The wine of the day is Upchurch from Red Mountain.
Sounds like it's for a homo. So, listen, we have a lot of news to get to. We're going to talk about net neutrality. We're going to talk about Donald Trump Jr. For those who missed. Yeah, I know. I am so tired of that story.
Oh, good Lord.
And what else are we going to be talking about?
Talking about...
I don't know. We'll talk about this. Thanks to President Donald Trump.
Thanks, Jared.
The Afghan girl robotics team has finally been granted entry into the United States. So remember that. That one is thanks to Donald Trump. They engineer robots. When asked and polled as to who expressed concern with national security issues, responded yes was everybody.
Everybody.
This is a plus or minus everyone.
Everyone, 100%.
On that polling average. But most were relieved when they actually saw the Afghan robot prototype. See, this is why they don't let you drive.
Johnny Five is alive.
You even knew the reference, Johnny.
I do.
Well, just let it ride,
I'm on
Gerald.
80s movies.
Gerald.
Someone might be going, hey, what is it? What is it? What is it? And you're like, Johnny Five. And
I'm there
you
to
ruined
help.
it for
there
me.
to help. It's not a quiz.
Anyway, these are engineers, robotic engineers. These are the best and brightest that Afghanistan has to offer. These ladies, engineers, are engineering robots. Next up on their list, engineering a functioning clitoris. Hopefully that's somewhere in the cards.
Go, robot.
Oh,
All right, so listen, BART, which is the Bay Area Rapid Transportation System, we talked about this yesterday. They're withholding surveillance video of crimes being committed to avoid stereotypes. Now, actually, Deborah Allen, who's a member of the board at BART, is going to be on the show on Monday for Mug Club members.
Nice.
So, listen, I respect her for coming in because we have been pretty merciless about this quote from her. She said, to release these videos would create a high level of racially insensitive commentary toward the district. In addition, it would create a racial bias in the riders against minorities on the trains. Because sometimes video surveillance footage is a little bit racist or sexist or, God forbid, transphobic. This is video surveillance footage.
So it actually showed what happened.
Yes, it's not commentary.
Are we at some point? What are we making people putting them in more danger?
Yeah.
By not letting them know.
By not releasing, it's like you're saying, listen, we do not want to release this mysterious videotape because it could make some people out there with inherent biases do some really bad things against Mexicans who are not committing crimes in these tapes. I just don't. At what point do we? This is news. These are crimes. Awesome. At what point do we stop sanitizing the news? So here to get to the bottom of what actually happened on the BART system is our very own on-the-field reporter. Reporter, can you hear me out there? Can you hear me?
Yes, Stephen. There was a gruesome incident that involved some persons along with some other persons at a locale at the time of the day.
Okay. Well, there's who at what time? Give us something more to go on,
yes,
reporter.
Of course. We are not happy about it at all. And back to you, Stephen.
No, you got to be some more information than that, reporter.
Of course.
Okay, yeah, there's got to be something.
The incident occurred at a balmy 82 degrees when it happened. And reporting for Loud Crowder, I'm a reporter. And up next, sports.
We don't cover sports.
Not at all.
Soccer. There we go.
Well, what can you expect? I hope he finds what he's looking for. Chelsea Clinton is also being sued for $150,000 for... Okay. This is not fake. There are some stories we're going to talk about today that you may think this is true. She's being sued for plagiarizing ideas in her new... It's a children's book. She's being sued for her children's literature. Did you read this story, Jill?
I did.
I know you've been off on a balmy 4th of July
82.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah, 82.
I did read this story. It's silly.
And the air went out in our studio today. That's why we're all glistening.
No joke.
So she's being sued for blatant plagiarism and also trademark infringement, which, actually looking back, we have worked with trademark infringement issues. We've had to deal with those quite a few times.
It happens from time to time.
And looking back, they probably should have seen this coming with Chelsea Clinton.
Not such a surprise.
A few books. She did the Cat and the Pussy Hat was one where I felt as though it was borderline. And then she got a lot of flack for By Curious George and the Adventure of Self-Discovery.
It almost seems obvious when you see it.
It's a trail of raisins. Move on. Next slide. And then, obviously, just because it's so popular, she probably will lose the suit from hashtag not all brown bears, hashtag not all brown bears, there's nothing to see. So these are, what's happening?
I'm sorry, hold on.
Jared.
Dean, hey.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, man.
Hey,
It's,
What's
Thursday.
that? I just need a quick question. What position can I put you down for in football?
Football.
Yeah, what do you play? I assume probably receiver or...
No, I don't. I mean, we're talking. I don't really. I shouldn't play football usually. Are you playing football? I do that.
Yeah, no. Dude, did I play football? What?
I know. Well, I know. Dean, I can't. Dean, I've seen your reel. I'm gonna get killed.
Charity. No, Jared, it's charity. You'll be fine.
Oh, okay.
No big deal.
Dean,
Should I just say receiver?
I don't weigh much,
Defensive
man.
back, running back. You're fast.
I am fast, but I've seen your reel, man.
No, it'll be you. Well, I mean, there's some players, but you'll be fine.
It's celebrity. We'll be okay. It's tackle.
Well, it's tackle, but it's not like it's hard tackle.
Okay, who else is going to be there?
What is it? Me, Terry Crews will be there. Maybe The Rock, because he played as well in college.
No.
Okay, I don't want him
sorry.
in anymore.
No.
I'm sorry. I don't.
But
I told him it's
He's a nice guy. Maybe we can do something with him.
we're not
I'm surprised he wasn't
anymore.
calling Gerald. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Move on.
Waterboy
So,
Jared.
Washington Post had this article out about how dating an abortion provider can be cool.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Because it can be rad, kids.
Just like a cool hat.
Yeah.
Or
I
Winnie
thought this
Pooh-
was going a different direction than it ended up going, by the way.
Yeah, I can imagine. So they write in the article, an unexpected side effect of the 2016 election is that many people have become vocal about their support for reproductive rights. Suddenly, dating an abortion provider can be a cool way to proclaim one's liberal street cred, not an Onion article. Dating an abortionist is a way to prove your liberal street cred. It's one step away from having a black friend. Hey, my broad killed a baby. We cool?
We go.
Go on and grab yourself some forceps. She done it.
She done it.
So we do, though, in this, on this show, we always try to look at from the opposition's point of view. We
sure.
want to be fair, to at least try, to understand where they're coming from, is to at least be capable of rebutting their argument. And we actually saw
Difficult here.
there are quite a few positives here.
Gerald.
Yeah, we do a pros and
Hypothetical.
cons list.
difficult.
Yeah, it's like you almost didn't
Back
read
off.
the show breakdown. It's like you just showed up from drinking wine. SimplifiedWine.com, one
That's
hell of a
kinda
plug. So we do a pros and cons list on a regular basis just to figure out. We have the whiteboard. We did a pros list, namely for this. We just wanted to do a pros list.
Yep.
And there are actually a few perks to dating an abortionist. So number one, he's got a stable job. You know that because he works for the government, so stable income. More importantly, it's going to be good money because he's a doctor. He'll always do the vacuuming, and then of course there's all the dead fetal tissue you can eat. So there are perks when you lay out the list.
Yeah. When you look at it that way, it's not so bad.
Well, and you can do it with anything. You can do pros with anything. So I see how they did this with the Washington Post. We did the same thing. We just kept going with it. Take Ted Bundy. There are a lot of reasons to date Ted Bundy. So like he was a good-looking guy. He had a high IQ, as far as we know. And if you are on campus, you'll never have to do the walk of shame because you'll be killed by him. So you don't have to worry about the bed sheet.
Yeah, that helps. That really does help that.
So I get it, Washington Post. We're feeling you. There's no blind spot here.
Nope.
We get it.
I've been educated. Thank you. That was necessary.
Speaking of educating, we have to get to our guests pretty soon. We have Ben Shapiro and Cassie Jaye. Net neutrality is back in the news. Trending everywhere. I covered this years ago when I was at South by Southwest when people were being really alarmists about it. And it's a confusing issue for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I had questions about this. Like, what?
Okay.
I almost. It sounds good, net neutrality, right? The
That's
title's good.
pro-choice
And then
sounds good.
Exactly. I started reading through it. Help me understand this a little bit better.
Yeah.
Pros and cons.
Well, okay, so it is confusing because right now we effectively have net neutrality, and a lot of people don't want to have net neutrality. Now, liberals, the far left, they are, and go back and watch the video, Google net neutrality, oh no, or YouTube that. I did it when I was at South by Southwest and actually spoke with people who were net neutrality activists, and they couldn't answer the questions. And then you had some rebuttal videos, people saying, oh, he doesn't really know. No, I've studied it quite a bit, but it is so complicated, it requires a simplification for most people to understand it. Okay, so liberals are really mad about the FCC votes to overturn net neutrality. Why? They're saying that it's a class issue. Okay, so here's what they claim, that net neutrality is what prevents big evil corporations from hijacking the internet. Okay, so for example, and it's not entirely without merit. Let's say the merger happens. I think it's AT&T and Turner have been trying to merge for a while. So AT&T is one of the biggest internet service providers. And what they could do is they could say, well, listen, we're the same company. We're going to give the right of way. People will be able to get CNN content, Samantha Bee content.
Oh, dear God.
content. Yeah, because there's not enough bandwidth for that. It's going like hotcakes. So they could say, well, we're going to give it the right of way. We're going to throttle everyone else. Like, for example, us, Louder with Crowder, or a competing network like Fox News. It's not without its merit. But here's the thing. They say this is going to save the internet from big evil corporations. The truth is Google and Facebook are huge supporters of net neutrality.
Yeah.
Facebook, who, by the way, sent out an investigative team that likely helped get a Pakistani man killed by their government for blaspheming. So Facebook is not the kind of place where they want a free and open internet. Neither is Google. If you look at now, the reason for this is because net neutrality only affects ISPs. It doesn't affect search engines or sites that provide media.
Not to mention, if it was a problem, they just shell out the cash, pay their way around it
Well,
anyways.
And that's exactly another issue here. It's the small ISPs who would be hurt the most. And we have this, I think, up from CenturyLink, where they've done studies, and smaller, primarily rural ISPs are impacted the worst because financing and infrastructure dries up in rural areas. So they're the ones who would be serving a lot of rural areas, and they're not able to do it. Now, why? It would be really expensive, like you said. Anytime you introduce legislation that's going to make things more expensive, the big guys can outlast it.
Yeah.
So with net neutrality, that's a good example. Let's look at the big ISPs versus the small ISPs. How could this raise costs? Let's say you're mailing a letter, Okay, you're mailing a letter, and we're shipping out Mug Club. It's expensive for us to ship out because it's girthy, heavy.
Yeah.
LottoWithCreditor.com/Mug Club, hand-etched. It's a heavy mug. It's almost like a little mini bowling ball. So treat this like net neutrality. You sending your letter, your postcard, can only arrive at the exact same time with the exact same speed and at the same cost as this nearly a pound mug.
Gotcha.
That's net neutrality. No.
So that screws everybody by raising the prices.
You
on the
couldn't.
logo.
FedEx can't say, well, there's an upcharge if you're sending a
Right.
mug as opposed to a letter. So net neutrality is no. Everything has to travel at the same speed, at the same cost. Now, it's not without concern. I understand it, but here's what it comes down to. It comes down to this. This is the ism. People say, I'm not an ideologue. Well, it does matter. Your worldview here. Are you more scared of a multitude of internet companies screwing everyone with no accountability more than you are in giving a 100% monopoly to the federal government? So let's say AT&T does do this with Turner.
Yeah.
Right? And it could happen with us. People are going to find out about that really quickly.
Yeah.
Now, companies have tried to do this. I think it was Netflix, Comcast. There were a couple of mergers that were going to happen. And a duopoly is terrible. Remember, it was just AT&T and Verizon?
Yeah.
Cell phone
bad.
plans have gotten amazing.
Yeah.
The last 3 years. Remember, unlimited, we said we're never
Hyper-competitive.
going to have unlimited again.
Yeah. They're always looking for a niche to fight with the other person on.
But now there are actually 4 legit. You have T-Mobile, you have Sprint.
Yeah.
They're not as good, but they're a lot better than they used to be. So prices go down.
So much better.
So my argument is it doesn't mean that AT&T couldn't throttle people. But then people go to Verizon. People go to somewhere else. Now, when the federal government dips their hand in the cookie jar, it's impossible to get them out, and then they can play favorites, right? They can pick winners and losers.
And almost impossible to reverse.
No,
There's
it's
no
almost
reversing
impossible
once
to
you go
reverse.
back.
And that's a big thing. When you have huge sweeping government legislation, look at healthcare, for example. We just saw our first U.S. city to collapse under Obamacare. We've talked about premiums. We've talked about deductibles. The pre-existing conditions, the failure with that, right? We thought that was going to work. Unintended consequences there. A great example, banks. This is something, too, where people try and compare it with net neutrality. Big, evil banks. I saw that movie, The Big Short. They throw around this term predatory lending. Okay, let's talk about banks. The hyper-regulation that led to the market. People say deregulation. That's idiotic. Predatory lending. You're a business owner, Gerald.
Yes, I am.
I'm a business owner.
And a predator.
Isn't there some kind of incentive to make a profit?
Yes.
Yes,
in
because
fact.
that's
Especially when the
actually-
federal government is pushing me to make sure everyone can get a loan.
Well, no, see, you're skipping ahead. You're skipping ahead. The point is,
my bad.
they hate business owners because we want to make a profit. But then predatory lending. This is the idea that you're being a predator and lending to people who could never pay it back. My business is making sure they can pay it back.
Yep. Yeah.
So here's the thing. This, again, big banks, the big market crash, was created by over-regulation, and then they found a way around it. It was basically, you have to give a loan to someone who cannot put money down, who has a horrible, has a single-digit credit score rating, a room temperature credit score rating, and no ability to pay you back. Now, no bank in the world would do that unless they were forced to, or it was backed by the government. If they default on this loan, we're going to pay it. And then if you saw the Big Short, big banks found a way around this where they would wrap these up in a package, these subprime loans. You've heard that term, subprime predatory lending. I'm trying to simplify it here. They'd wrap it up with other loans that were a little bit more secure, and it would get a credit rate. It would get a rating of being a secure investment, and that caused the market crash. By the way, after the market crash, big old bank bailouts. That's another thing. When the government steps in, big old bank bailouts. Guess what? The mom and pop bank can never grow. You can never grow if you're competing with Bank of America or Chase Bank, where they go, well, I guess we really screwed the pooch. We should be going bankrupt. More money, please. And Barack Obama says, sure, because it's the right thing to do. Anytime does that answer?
No, it does. It's basically a government-controlled solution or a market-controlled solution.
Right.
And a market-controlled is getting rid of net neutrality.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
I'm all for the market-controlled solution.
Yes, and again, there isn't a blind spot there. I'm not saying that's without its flaws.
Right.
Just like with YouTube. YouTube is a huge platform here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when YouTube started targeting conservatives, when they started demonetizing channels, we found out about it. That's the saga of Tranny Bane and Jihadi Bond, grand finale coming up in 2 weeks. So we actually decided to make people aware of it, and what happened? It's starting to correct
Well,
itself.
and you start to find other avenues, too. Mug Club being a great one.
Yes,
right?
Mug Club.
Pushing people to that.
LottoWithCreditor.com/Mug Club.
Go around that.
But by the way, if we mail it, we should be able to mail it at the same cost of letters. So
As long as I can mail
favor
my
net
wine
neutrality
at
when
that
it
cost.
helps me.
We're a little selfish here.
Post office isn't making money anyway. Come on. What's my extra 30%?
And I get it. I understand. Listen, I understand concerns with all the content we're uploading here. someone could say that, hey, what if someone has an internet provider that doesn't agree with what you have to say?
Sure.
We could be throttled. I'm not saying that everything is perfect and it's all rosy and corporations are not without their issues. I'm just talking about, global government monopoly. I mean, you have no idea what could happen with this show when we do the bit with midgets going out there and they're riding on the donkeys. They're let out panels, and you have a strip pole that's been lubed. Oil is corrosive to the metal. They're mounting each other bodies with a damn pitchfork.
I hate it. Ben Shapiro, coming right up.
Wonder, two, and two. P-O-G. This virtue.
Colton, are you watching that Louder with Crowder again?
You know I am, Josephine. Damn it, why even gotta ask that?
I just wanted to know, gee.
Sounds to me like when you ask a question you already know the answer to. That's some passive-aggressive bullshit. It's 9 p.m. Eastern. Of course I'm watching Louder with Crowder. You know I do, woman. Every day. Every damn day.
All right already. I just wanted to figure out what you were doing so I knew when I could use the TV.
Damn it, there it is, Josephine. You just made me miss the damn punchline. I can't even have any time to myself. All I want is 45 minutes every damn day to be informed on the issues of the day while watching it in the package that keeps me entertained, but you have to ruin it because you want to watch your wife swap.
Calm down. Why you gotta be so mean?
Mean? Don't I work all day for you, woman? I provide, don't I? A bunch of that damn couch.
You didn't buy that. You found it.
Whatever happened to it's the fucking thought that counts. You know what? Thanks to the app, I can watch Louder with Crowder wherever I want. I'm gonna go be educated in my truck.
That's like with your wife. Well, you and Chef, how was your day? I don't want to talk about it. Please tell me what I'm supposed to say. Exactly. Help. Yes. Please help. That's feminism movement. Well, you're supposed to hire more women. Okay, well, here they are.
Josephine, what the f*** you do to the router?
It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Come cheer up my nights, come cheer up my nights. It's better to have
All right, Pogo, obviously, always playing Pogo.
Always good stuff.
Every week, love Pogo. Regular guest, another guy's a regular guest, crowd favorite, not as attractive as Cassie Jaye, who'll be coming after him. But we do like him a lot. You can watch his Ben Shapiro show over there at dailywire.com. Ben Shapiro, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I wish I could say I were happier with you. So this week it was brought to our attention that you started offering something that your very own kind of mug club going on, mug promotion, right? Not gay, Jared?
we have-
No, it's a Tumblr. It's a Tumblr.
Ah.
It's a totally different thing.
Okay.
You think we waited for 2 years at this company without deference to the mug club?
Yeah,
Come on.
Well, okay, you know what? But it is hard for us to compete. We're a much smaller operation here at Louder with Crowder. So what bothered me was the escalation. We obviously this week we created a promo. Every mug, Louder with Crowder Mug Club, came with a free Socialism is for Figs shirt, which we thought would help. But then you had to one-up us with the promotional offer of every Ben Shapiro's tumbler right now ships free, filled to the brim with Jew gold, which we thought was a little bit tough to compete with, Ben. And I will say this, your advertising is pandering, bordering on offensive at this point. So pardon the seas with the and then this is just unnecessary. I thought that was really in poor taste.
Yeah, well, we try to leverage whatever we have at our disposal. You have your brawn and low IQ, and we have gold and splitting the Red Sea.
Yes, this is true. Okay, so Ben, listen, we were going to talk about this earlier in the show. I am exhausted in discussing it at all this week because we've said this with Donald Trump Jr. is the worst kind of story for this show. Our rule is it's either got to be informative, we're breaking something new, it's got to be entertaining to some extent, or we have to somehow be insightful. If it's something everyone's talking about, what is it that we're providing that's new? Otherwise, there's no value added. With Donald Trump Jr., there's no way to do any of that. It just seems like everybody's a moron on this.
See, I feel like you can make it sort of entertaining. Like you have that schmuck Rob Goldstone who looks like Les Grossman from Tropic Thunder, and he's like just this fat load who's supposed to be the go-between, and then you have Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle, who's doing a meeting with Fredo Corleone. So it's really, there's some entertainment value there.
Yeah.
I mean, on my show, I played the clip of Joe Bluth going, "I've made a huge mistake." With Trump
It is bordering on cartoonish. You expect Dudley Do-Right to write in, "I'll save you, Donald Jr. He's in trouble. I must save him." It is so
exactly
bad.
right. I mean, it is the most incompetently done conspiracy with the Russians ever. I mean, if it is these things, it's another one of these stupid stories where everybody gets it wrong, right? So on the one hand, you have people on the right going, "It's a big nothing. It's a nothing burger. Nothing happened here." Okay, in the emails it says, "We're going to send a Russian government lawyer to come talk to you as part of Russia's support for Mr. Trump." And Trump Jr. is like, "Sounds awesome."
Why does it sound like a Nerf commercial from the 90s? It's Nerf or nothing!
He basically says that, right? He's like, "I love it. I love it." He's like, okay, so Donald Jr., not good at this. And then he drags in Paul Manafort, who's like the Kremlin's man on the inside.
Yeah.
And he drags in Jared Kushner, who, Jared Kushner, the guy who's in charge of the opioid crisis, the guy who's in charge of peace in the Middle East, and the guy who dresses like the front of the J. Crew catalog. That guy, they bring him into this meeting
he's like
with Natasha, who doesn't have any information about Hillary Clinton, it turns out. She just wants to talk about adopting Russian babies because we need more Russian babies adopted, so we have to get rid of sanctions on Russia. It's a little bit humorous. And then Donald Trump's defense of this whole thing is, well, everybody would have done it. And it's like, well, not everybody. I mean, some people would have done it probably, but not everybody. And I like when he says he didn't know about it. It's like, well, maybe you didn't know about it, or maybe you did, and it wouldn't have mattered to you anyway because you just said that anyone would have done it. So that's also a possibility. But
by the way, that's a great disservice to J.
Crew.
Crew. That's a great disservice to J. Crew. They make fantastic products. I would compare much more to the specialty clothing item in the Hamacher Schlemmer catalog. It's my driving moccasins. He's that guy.
Yeah, he gets his helicopter and his clothing.
Yes, exactly.
He has his little mini submarine that he rides around in Jared Kushner. I think that's right. So on the one hand, you got people saying it's a nothing burger. It's not a nothing burger. It's a something burger. Okay, and then on the other side, you have the Democrats going, treason. We got to trot Donald Trump Jr. over to an actual noose and hang him from the highest tree because he had a conversation about adoption with some crazy Russian lady after speaking with Les Grossman.
Exactly.
It's like, no, that's not treason. This is all stupid. Plus, you have no evidence that any actual collusion happened. So at best, what you have here is attempted collusion, but no information comes out from the meeting, apparently. And then here's my big question that I've been thinking about a lot this week. I don't even know what the collusion would look like. So supposedly, let's assume the worst of what Democrats believe. Let's assume that it was the Russian government and they were using WikiLeaks to hack the DNC. Why would they need to coordinate that with Trump? What sort of coordination is happening there? Do they need to give him a heads up on we're releasing the next batch of WikiLeaks? It wasn't during the campaign that was a consistent pattern where Trump would go, you know what's coming tomorrow? Something special.
Yeah.
And then the next day WikiLeaks dropped something. It was WikiLeaks dropped something, then people like you and me went through the hundreds of pages of WikiLeaks looking for the relevant material. It wasn't even like Trump had the cash drops, and then the next thing you know, Trump's campaign is on top of it. Within an hour, they've got a full analysis of all the WikiLeaks. So I don't even see how
I think
the
that's an
collusion
important
exactly
point.
works.
That's always what I said. I said, listen, if you were going to be hacking, if you were going to try and affect an election, right? Let's say, like Paul Manafort. I even said that with Sally Cohen. I'm like, listen, if you want to talk about Paul Manafort's unsavory ties, that's legitimate, but then you take that and you expand it into something that's completely untrue, and that's why you lose and no one trusts you. But
exactly.
The saving grace as to why I don't believe Donald Trump has taken part in collusion with the Russians is because they're not dumb. And I don't think Donald Trump is dumb, but I do think he has a big mouth and he's incapable of keeping a secret. The last person they would tell is Donald Trump. They would tell everyone but him. They would tell Spicer before Trump.
I agree. This has actually been my working theory for a while, is that let's say every single person around Trump knew, they're never going to tell him, because the next thing you know, he's going to be on TV, he's going to be, I know something you don't know. It's like, you know that's what's coming next. So that would, yeah, again, I totally agree with you on this. I've always said that if there is anything dirty that happened here, it came probably through Flynn or through Manafort.
Right.
Like back in 2012, I was approached by some guy who wanted me to write pieces about Ukraine. He pitched me one piece about Ukraine and Hillary Clinton. It was a pretty good pitch, so I wrote it up. And then later he came to me and he was like, by the way, I work with Paul Manafort. Would you like to do business with him? And I was like, well, I don't know anything about Manafort. He's like, well, he knows people.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, no, let's not do that. So, like, everybody knew that Manafort was who Manafort was for years. But
Right.
so if there's anything dirty, it's there. But I really don't think that it's this routine where Trump was sitting at the top of the tree
Yeah.
and he and Putin were coordinating everything. I think it's crap.
No, well, you did make the point, and I've always agreed with this, that I hate it when they hang their employees out to dry and give them marching orders, and it's not necessarily true. To Donald Jr.'s credit, releasing the emails, he was trying to mitigate it, I think, pretty quickly, saying, listen, there's nothing here. Good for him. But here's my issue. It either stems from ignorance or arrogance, because if you know that the FBI is looking into anything that has to do with Russia ties, you certainly know that the media is, that the press is. You've got to go down the list and say, okay, I met with this Russian lawyer who said she might have some info, rattle it off, and put it all out in the open. Don't wait for the New York Times or Washington Post to break it. And the fact that what else are they sitting on? They need to get it out there if there's nothing to hide.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Barack Obama did so well, right? Dreams for My Father is chock full of fantastic oppo material if an opposition researcher had actually dredged it up.
Right.
But instead what Obama did is he said, okay, here's all the crap that I've ever done, right? It was right here in the book.
Right.
And now what are you going to do? Right? Sure, I was doing crack back in high school. You know, I did a little blow. Big deal. You know, like if that had actually come out, remember, the DUI charge against George W. Bush, which came out a week before the election in 2000, really hurt him. Imagine if 4 years earlier he had said, yeah, back in the 70s I had a DUI charge. I've really gotten my life straight. Like this is what you have to do in politics, is you have to take all of the things that you've done that are bad, and you have to be the first one out the gate with it and say, I've done my repentance, I've fulfilled my penance now, and everything is fine, or it wasn't that big a deal at the time. Like you get to have a chance at the first spin when it's your sin. But the fact that Jared Kushner didn't report the meeting, the fact that Manafort didn't report the meeting apparently, the fact that Don Jr. was saying for a long time there was no collusion whatsoever, and then this email comes out from him. Again, I do love the idea that Trump says he's the most transparent guy. It's like, dude. 8 minutes later, the New York Times story dropped. It wasn't like Donald Trump Jr. was like, you know what, I have to be fully transparent. I just have to be honest. I need to bring this out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It's like the New York Times called him, and they said, in 10 minutes we're dropping this story, and he rushes to his email, and he puts it all up on Twitter.
I actually get the sense that Donald Jr. is a decent guy. I don't think he's that bad of a guy. I don't
think he's a bad guy either. I just think he's a neophyte. I mean, I just think that he knows nothing about this process, and I think that if you are a person, I think that Donald Trump and his sons have a particular vision of what politics is because they haven't spent a lot of time in it until now, where they think that politics is legitimately the dirtiest business there is. And so when Trump says anyone would have done this, I think he really believes anyone would have done this. And so when Trump Jr. saw this sort of stuff, he probably figured, okay, Hillary's doing the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like everyone is super dirty here. What's the big deal? I do it, you know, I'm a civilian, whatever.
Yeah.
And it never occurs to him this is not something that you probably should be doing, especially since he was already connected with Rob Goldstone, right? I mean, they knew Goldstone for years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They knew the people who they were talking to for years. So my guess is he probably didn't think it was that big a deal at the time. He figured if we can get some extra information, great. And he probably figured, you know, or at least it's possible he figured that even the line in the email about this is part of the Russian government's support for Mr. Trump, they just figured, okay, well, we've always been close with the Russians, and maybe that's just a selling point. Maybe that's just trying to sell us on doing the meeting in the first place.
Right.
So I think that virtually this has been
Hold on.
rule
Take a breath.
so far.
Take a breath. Nake Jared has to say something.
I wasn't going to say, you know, you got to get out there ahead of it. Like every dad kills JFK.
Yes.
Gotta get on top of this stuff.
I mean, imagine if Ted Cruz had come out right up front in the beginning of the campaign and he said, my father was involved in the murder of JFK. He would be president right now.
You would be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you have to know. If he had said, my wife is ugly and my father killed the president of the United States, he would be the president of the United States right now. If Ted Cruz had only gone forward and done all of those
I've had
things.
a change of heart for my father.
You know, I do think that when it comes to the notion that Trump is doing this out of malice and not ignorance, this has always been my consistent rule with the Trump administration. Never attribute to malice what you can attribute to stupidity or ignorance. And that has always been a good rule.
Yeah.
It has yet to fail me.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think in the grand scheme of things, we did a false sort of a timeline of false Russia stories this week. And there were so many to wade through. We said, okay, let's pick about the 5 major ones. Of course, the BuzzFeed, CNN pissing Russian prostitutes. That has to make it in there, of course. It's the funniest thing that we've ever heard in our lives after we knew that it was...
Until it turns out that they're about to break the actual tape and Trump goes on Twitter and he's like, I'm getting it out first. Boom. Pee.
Water sports. So, I was raised poor. I never had a Sea-Doo. Okay, I think I do. This took a really bad turn. This won't make air. Of course it will. What was I saying before this? I was talking about Donald Trump.
It's all over, man. You got derailed by the P-tape.
Yeah, exactly.
As we all are.
I don't know what I was saying. What was I saying? I could hear about this.
It's probably really important and insightful.
Oh, we were going through the false Russia timeline story. And there were so many, we just had to pick some that we were going, okay, these are the most egregious, right, offenses. I think if you're going to do that timeline, do a refresher on it, even 6 months from now, let alone a year, this one won't even be a blip on the radar. I think it's one of the biggest stretches from the left's, the media that we've seen. And I also don't think that it just so happens to coincide with one of the worst weeks for ratings, in American television.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this one, it depends what happens next, right? I mean, if it turns out that there is no further collusion, no further contact, then it'll just be a point of contention and rage from the left, sort of like Benghazi was for us, and then the left ignored it, and the media ignored it, and it turned out that it just wasn't a great motivator. I think that could definitely be, even though there was more substance to Benghazi than there is to this.
Sure.
Those emails are really not good. I mean, the fact that it says directly in the email, Russian government lawyer and part of Russia's effort to help Mr. Trump, that is more substantive than the P-tape BuzzFeed crap. So it's not, it's hard to claim fake news when Trump Jr. dropped the emails himself.
Well, hold on a second. It is, but that doesn't mean Donald Trump, President Donald Trump.
I agree. No, you know I agree with this. I mean, of course I agree that it doesn't go directly to Trump, but it is true that the majority of people in the Trump administration have been saying for months that the Trump campaign, right? Trump himself said the Trump campaign had no contacts with the Russian government, and this does pose a problem for that. Now, is that enough for anybody to really go nuts over? I don't think so. I don't think it should be. I don't think that this is like reason for anyone to panic and set their hair on fire. But it's enough that the left is going to make itself totally crazy over it. They're going to say, oh, it was a smoking gun. He admitted it. It's out there. And now he should be impeached. But look, they were going to impeach him anyway if they win the House. So I'm not sure that it really changes material reality on the ground that very much.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I don't think that's the issue. Is I watch it and I go, oh, it's that and Justice for All with Al Pacino, that famous. How did you know there was one Ralph? It's like now you're clearly giving away information you could have only known this way. It's such a screw up, but I also feel compelled to defend against the lies from the media where they take a kernel of truth. Therefore, Donald Trump is directly under investigation from the FBI because he colluded with Russia. It's like, now you lose us, and this is why they're losing their ratings. All right, we have to go. Ben Shapiro, where's the best place for people to find you?
Check us out at Daily Wire, where we have a magnificent etched tumbler. You may have seen it on such shows as Louder with Crowder. It is just fantastic. And you can get a subscription over at dailywire.com. Get a subscription to both CRTV and Daily Wire, and then you can tell your kids about it someday when Steve and I are both dead and legends.
Yeah, well, this is true, although Legendary will be your lie just now because you can't actually etch a tumbler. It's metal. It has to be a print. Ben Shapiro, we must go. I told you, I don't want to see that tumbler here in the studio.
That's all I had to drink from.
With what? AR-15.
It's not a mug. It's not hand etched. It's just a tumbler. But I don't want people seeing it on camera. If you have it in here,
It's not okay. I promise. It's off camera. People will never even know.
Can't believe you're drinking from that.
Oh no, there's another one.
That's all I had. It was what I brought with me. It travels well.
With your what?
The mug is not to travel. It's those tumblers. You can get them anywhere. It used to be the Yeti thing was $50.
Yeah,
It's $50, and then they got into a lawsuit. You can get them for $7 at Walmart. There's nothing special about these things. They're actually. I'm saying
that's what I had.
I get it. I understand.
If you wash my mug, maybe I would
convenient.
put it in my mug.
How much time do we have? How much time do we have left?
About 45 seconds.
All right. Just make sure, because one time you had the Quick Trip Cup on camera. The only thing that you see on camera is our Lotto with Crowder. I don't want to see Ben Shapiro's.
I get it.
It's
It's a fantastic mug, though.
Damn it, Jasper, just do the lines.
No, really. It'd be great if we could do like a side-by-side and just bring in...
Don't say it.
Don't say what?
The name of your roommate. Just drop it, move on. Come on.
No, it's nothing bad. He was a great roommate, and he was built like a brick outhouse. It's just the resemblance here is striking between this gorilla and...
Don't.
Now, don't what?
Don't say the name. Jasper?
My roommate Tyrone. Stay tuned for more Wild at Large on the Nature Network. Narrated by Jasper Prunk.
That beverage is delicious. It's just, the aroma and the flavor's enhanced 42% by Mug Club. Oh, hey there. I didn't see you there. I thought we were on a commercial break. I guess this is one where I do a live read. How often do you hear me do them? About once a week. Unlike every other show. You ever notice in radio where they try and work it into conversation?
Yeah,
it's like the
really
Truman
awkward.
Show. It's like, and obviously most important along with the constitutional principles of limited government is Mug Club. I'm a huge fan of... I would do it if I could, but I just don't think they work. Listen, we are so grateful. Last week was the first week I have taken off in years. We take off a certain amount of time between Christmas and New Year's. We've had some long weekends. A big part of that was people joining up with Mug Club and actually creating stability because YouTube has been so volatile. So for people who haven't, it's $99 annually, $69 if you're students, veterans, active military. Doesn't matter what kind of a student you are. If you're any kind of student, wink, wink, enter in your promo code and customer service will validate it. LottoWithCrowder.com/MugClub. You get the show every day, Monday through Thursday, and you get Morning Grinders on Friday. You get access to the entire CRTV lineup, which right now we're launching a whole new app so that you can watch it anywhere. You can pause it. It'll know where you pause it. You'll have MP3 downloadable. I know a lot of people have been asking for that. And once that app is drawn out, we're going to have a lot of new people added to the lineup. So ironically, listen, we're not going away with the free content. It's the paid content that allows us to stay on YouTube and forces YouTube lawyers to bring us out to New York and have meetings because they're concerned about why we're not going away. And like we were talking about with Cassie Jaye, some of these things that you see, they take hours and hours. There's Nake Jared, Sound Guy Edward, Aaron the Intern, Matt from TBS, who was just there talking about Samantha Bee yesterday, Francine, Darren, Courtney, Casey, Brodigan, Corey, Nicole. Am I missing anyone? I don't know.
I don't think so.
All of these people make good livings, not fight for 15. They make great livings. They're able to provide for their family. They're able to eat exclusively because of Mug Club. And we appreciate it if you join. If you don't want to join, you don't have to. You still get plenty of free content. But if you don't want to see them starving in the streets, you'll join. For less than the price of a cup of coffee per month, really. If you're a student, it's less than a tall. What's the big size at Starbucks?
Grande.
Grande is the biggest? No, it's a venti. Venti, because that means 20. For less than one venti specialty beverage at Starbucks per month, you can feed a Mug Club worker. All right, glad to be back. Glad to be back with our next guest because she's one of our most requested guests.
For a variety of reasons.
No, let's be honest. Just bring her up. Bring her up so people can see her. She needn't speak yet because we haven't introduced her officially, but this is why. This is a very pretty young lady, and now people really they are attracted to her intellectually as well. TheRedPillMovie.com. We've had her on. We've had Renee in Australia. There was a whole showdown there where they premiered the film.
Protest ensued.
People love her. She's a great guest. Cassie Jaye, thank you for being back.
Hello, and guess what? I have a surprise.
What? I don't even know how she got that. She must have joined.
This is going to be the rest of the show, by the way. Just
Cassie Jaye. Just let it roll. Yeah, well, that's what we had with her. And what's her name? The singer.
Joy Villa.
Joy Villa. I literally would get hundreds of tweets just, when you have another guest, you shouldn't be on the screen so much. You should just let them have the screen. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. Any particular reason? I just think it's better. It's just better vibe for the show.
If you love America.
So, if people don't know about Red Pill Movie now, they should. There's a sale going on, 99 cents on iTunes. Let me ask you. Okay, and then we promise you that since we've had you on several times, we'd open the floor to whatever you want to ask. But let me ask you this: it's really common for people to say, oh, I was a blank until as a marketing angle. So a lot of people say, I was a liberal until I became a conservative.
I was the real thing.
And then they start selling books on Fox News. And I will say this, behind the scenes, that's often untrue. So how drastic would you say your transition was? Like, on it, just lay it out there, 100% honest.
Oh, that's a great question, because there have been some people who are like, she was never a feminist, and I would love to ask them, well, what's your version of a feminist? Because was I ever a radical who wanted to dye my hair green and purple and
to be fair, you'd probably pull it off better than most of the women who do. That's true.
Well, I definitely, in another life, I think I would have liked some colored hair, but no, I wasn't that radical, although I would go march for Planned Parenthood, and I have made and I've kept a video. Here's something kind of weird that makes me people are like, whoa, that's weird about her. I've kept a video diary since I was 18 years old. When I got this little Sony camcorder, I know it's kind of weird, but I was acting back then in LA, and I was trying to understand people's psychology, what makes them do the things they do. And my acting coaches were saying, start to analyze how your face looks when you're feeling sad or when you're feeling happy, and know how you come off. And so I kept a video diary, and I ended up just really liking, getting your whole life story out to someone who will never see it. But what I realized, though, is looking back on those diaries, I was really radical feminist in my ideology, as far as I was quick to dismiss or outright laugh at men's issues. And when I started to flip the script and ask myself what would be the gender reverse scenario, I started to realize my own bias and sexism. Yeah, so as far as how much of a transformation I made, I think I've always been kind of a person that likes to see multiple angles to any issue. But I was very much, in my bubble of living in LA, now in San Francisco. Yeah. All my friends are feminists.
No, you got out of the bubble. You went to San Francisco. Now you're among the people.
Yeah.
Look out your street and it's full of people. Oh, look, men in leather having sex. That's middle America. Yeah, it's not. It's like flyover country. Although it's true what they say. Self-video diaries, though obnoxious and narcissistic, can serve a purpose.
Okay.
Well, it's funny that you say you were acting and doing that in Los Angeles and doing video diaries, because that was probably before the whole thing got huge on YouTube. So now you could have just made a killing.
There was no YouTube.
No, there was.
Yeah.
And there's a huge advantage on you. Well, we both are. And there's a huge advantage. Here's one thing you must acknowledge. Well, a couple of things that you just said. Now, here we go with the conversation. It's interesting that you say, I laughed at men's issues. I've never met a guy who does that with women. Like, honestly, people who think I've never met a guy who just laughs at women's issues. Like, can you believe they have to give birth? Complain. We're all like, yeah, you know what? That seems pretty tough. But then we acknowledge their differences. Where I do feel like a lot of women's supports groups, they get together and just laugh and dismiss men's issues when they can be pretty damn serious. And something else, there is a huge advantage to being an attractive female on social media, period. It's not even close. That's a privilege.
Hashtag beauty privilege.
Yeah. Well, I just even recently, I've started to really ask myself, gender's reverse, relationships. If there's a guy and a girl married for years, who do you think is more fearful of saying the wrong thing to the other person? Yeah. Or offending the other person or criticizing the other person? And, gender's reverse, we would have seen, women, we would hear that, women in the 50s or the 40s, they'd be too afraid to speak out of line and have a repercussion for that from their husband. But I think today, it has flipped, or I don't know if I don't really know what happened in the 40s. We only know what's been written and has been, funding to reprint and
I saw some Mad Men flashbacks where Don's dad wasn't necessarily the kindest man. So that's about what I know of the 40s. It's interesting that you say that, because I do think in the 50s there was sort of these expectations of, there was finishing school. This is how you're a proper lady. In our generation, I would say that definitely has flipped in the sense of it's the pink generation. You're perfect the way you are. Every girl goes into a relationship. My wife and I, listen, we're Christians. There's a book that we read called When a Sinner Says I Do. And it basically was, you are both equally pieces of crap. Know that you're joining your crap and you need to work on your crap. That was pretty much the premise of the book, which I thought was unbelievably helpful. But a lot of girls go into relationships and say, if he loves you, if he really loves you, he'll love you just the way you are. No, you bite your toenails. That annoys me. It's okay. Doesn't mean I don't love you. Whereas men are told, you need to work on yourself. You need to fix that about yourself. And I think that is a cultural phenomenon right now where men are pressured into changing and adapting. And I think that's a good thing. But women are told, if anyone asks you to change, it means they don't love you.
Yeah, and something also that I've been wondering about is, so when I was a feminist, I would often hear, we would see these old advertisements where a woman is on her knees offering a tie to her husband as a Christmas present, or her over his knee being spanked for choosing the wrong Folgers coffee. And there are like ads that
or choosing the right one.
Websites would see this.
Yes, my wife gets if she chooses the right one.
So I was being, told that in the early turn of the century, women, had to serve their man and had to have a cocktail ready for him when he got home from work and put his feet up and start cooking the dinner. And so I've started to kind of because after making the red film, I'm totally uprooted and I have a blank canvas, and now I can really start to look at history critically. And I'm beginning to wonder if the reason why women did have some whiskey ready for their man when he got home was because they actually knew, oh gosh, I'm going to get so much trouble for this.
Go for it. Get some, Cassie, get some.
But maybe those women actually knew that they had the better end of the deal, and he was going into the coal mines, and he was, providing for the family and the home and the food to feed the kids and all this, and she actually did have the more comfortable, flexible lifestyle. And so to show her appreciation for what he was offering and sacrificing for their family, that was her way of doing it. And maybe, the grandmothers told their granddaughters, now make sure to have your husband happy, keep him happy, have a home-cooked meal on the table when he gets home. Maybe it wasn't so much, slavery to your husband, but it was actually just showing your appreciation. And I know I'm going to get in trouble by feminists for saying that, because it does sound like, oh, that's a woman's place, is making...
No. We've already weeded them out of our show. They're not here.
They're not watching. We have a lot of people, though, who really like Cassie, we have a lot of liberals who watch the show. We have a lot of atheists who watch the show. We have a lot of moderates who say, man, I really wish that there was someone like her out there in the mainstream, someone like her out there on The View, or there are a multitude of girls we have on the show who speak this way, not all necessarily as articulate as Kathy, or some much more profane, like Karen Strawn. Brilliant, but my gosh, have your hand on the censor button.
And a lighter nearby makes good friends with her.
Well, here's something else too. First off, this goes back to, we've talked about this a lot, where I used to get so much flack. I was always an open Christian, but didn't proselytize. In the church, in small groups where we get married in Christian counseling, they call this complementarianism. And they say, listen, you are both equal and equally important in the marriage, but you both are very different and serve different roles. And so they talk about Scripture and this idea, wives submit to your husbands. Husbands, be good to treat your women as the best among you. That was Christ's teaching. He was a feminist. He was like, treat them as better than you. Submission, even if you look at this interpretation, submission to God means wanting to serve. And if you look at the way men and women are designed, let me draw a little personal parallel here, because you've said this before, that I'm a different person on the road.
That's true.
Than here.
That's true.
And you just mean less stressed. I'm more fun to be around. That's because when I'm here, Cassie, I'm managing everyone. I have to make sure all the trains run on time. I'm doing 50 different things to make sure this show happens. When I'm on the road shooting a package, I know that everyone else is handling things because they know I can't do anything else. I'm on location, I can focus, and I'm happier that way. So it's probably easier for a guy, in a matter of speaking, to go into the coal mines, to go and do work, because they're singularly focused. It's where they're most efficient. And women are more efficient at serving a family than a man would be, and so they tend to be happier in those roles. Doesn't mean you need to be relegated to it, but that's how I see us designed.
Oh, and there's so many other parallels to this too, because I was listening to a podcast learning about deep work. Mm-hmm. I forget the author's name, but there's a book about deep work, and it's basically that when you multitask, your work becomes more shallow, or the kind of intellectual depth you can go into your work becomes more shallow. You can't really go beneath and have all these innovations and inventions. And so when I was hearing that, I was realizing, women are better at multitasking. I don't know if it's by nature or nurture that they have to multitask when they have a large family, mm-hmm. but that is how our brains are operating, like, what's the laundry, the dishes, all that. Yeah. And men are better with the focused task. And you need to be focused on a project uninterrupted to get to that point of being an Einstein, or being, someone who has made all this great, innovations and her discoveries.
Or a show that's mildly popular on YouTube with some Mug Club members for $69 annually for students. Comparisons. Okay, so Cassie, no, it is true. And by the way, I want to make sure, because you might get flack for that. It's not saying, here's the thing. It's not saying that women are shallower. What you were talking about is that there's a certain life budget, okay? So if here's the pool, you can take this whole pool of energy, put it into one thing, or women can take this whole pool of energy and put it into multiple things. It doesn't mean there's less energy, but it does mean they're doing more things, and you can't do it as in depth. And that's why a lot of the time, it's not systemic patriarchy, but the biggest innovations, the people who tend to be the best at one singular sport, activity, or intellectual endeavor are men, whereas the people who are best at a multitude of things are women. You even see this crossover with athletics. You have women who are much better at multiple sports than men. Generally speaking, a man is good at one.
Think about Courtney on the side of the website. She's very good at the managerial side, organizational side of the website, handling a lot of things coming in and out.
Yeah.
Your brain would blow up.
Yeah.
And another thing I've been thinking about, I'm just throwing out all these ideas that I've been having. I went to see this professor, Robert Sapolsky, speak the other day, and he was talking about how much a woman's stress really affects the fetus, and how the person is later in life, whether they have higher rate of diabetes or ADHD, so how a woman eats and how stressed she is. And I've known this, but watching his talk reminded me of this, and it made me now thinking with my gender-focused brain for the last few years working on the Red Pill, it made me realize, well, maybe the reason women shouldn't be working throughout their pregnancy is for the later life of the baby. And, so maybe it wasn't keeping women in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant not working that was keeping them down, but it was actually biologically healthier for future.
Your mom must have been having a 9-month panic attack.
My mom?
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
The way you turned out.
The way I turned out? Yeah, it is true. I definitely have my issues. And I've been studying this for a long time because of mental issues that I've had to figure out. And like I'm always trying to tweak it. I just put a hammock in my office, a Mayan hammock, because I read that it helps synchronize brain waves and increases sleep spindles when you sleep, which actually is very important for stroke recovery, for brain repair. So anything I can do, if it's diet, if it's exercise, like the other day, my brain sometimes isn't in sync with my body. I was just so tired. I just was like, okay, let me find the steepest hill and run as fast as I can. I was like, damn it, pulled a quad. I just turned 30. That's what happens.
But you're right. You're very regimented about like your bedtime, your bed space, kind of the ritualistic about
because
that.
I know that I'm so shotgun scatter.
Yeah.
I have to structure everything or nothing would get done. Okay, we have to get going soon, but you said you open the floor. Any questions you have for two vagabonds like us? Put us on the couch.
Oh, gosh. Oh my God. Well, how do you guys do it? How do you do this show? I can't believe how many videos you produce and how you're always on the road doing these. What's your process of thinking of new ideas for shows, especially the ones where you go out on the streets and edit a really fun video like the manspreading one?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's right.
We cut ourselves at night.
Yes, we cut ourselves at night to senses fail. Where are the Kong balls we had that we put in that device? I don't know.
There's some around here.
And YouTube couldn't throttle that video fast enough. No. I will say this, and I appreciate you saying that. It looks sometimes really easy to make something silly, but for example, like the Colton Wade sketches that'll be in this, the Mug Club commercials in this show, they take a lot of time. I mean, Edward the sound guy was building a set for 5 hours to do that. Francine is coming in with wardrobe. Some of these things, just one 30-second sketch can take, would you say 10 hours of work?
Yeah, at least.
10, probably more, 12 hours, like the Tranny
Between
Bane
multiple people.
parodies, yeah.
Multiple talented people.
And we don't have 10 writers like Samantha Bee or 15 like Trevor Noah. It's really, it's me, Not Gay Jared, other people in production help contribute writing. It's getting up early and working really late. And the kind of danger, we were just talking about this, is we are in the middle of the road where we're not really competing against YouTube vloggers. Our overall presence, we're kind of competing against the Samantha Bees, the Trevor Noahs of the world, but with not even a fraction of the budget or firepower. So honestly, I don't know. Every day it's different, but everyone here contributes a whole bunch. I mean, I'm not just saying that because sometimes Not Gay Jared really messes things up and I want to stab him. Sometimes I do stab him, but everyone plays a role. It's a lot of work.
I'll cut the check to her for setting up that question for
us.
Well,
and to answer for the ideas, we sit down every morning and just go through stories every single morning. And sometimes we'll exhaust every possibility of a story or research until we're like, to the point by the time we talk about it on air, we have to find another way to make it funny again because we've gone through it 50 times and we've gone maybe this bit is funny, maybe this idea is funny, maybe this angle is funny. And it's a process. I mean, sure, it's the same thing with making a film like you did. That must have been exhaustive research.
Yeah, well, that was, deep work. That was 3.5 years of cutting everyone out of my life to just focus. And oftentimes I would edit at night, and now I realize it was because there was less distractions, but I had an owl schedule.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just so impressed by you guys. And you make me drink an extra cup of coffee before I'm on the show because you're just like, but it's great. I love it. As a viewer, it's perfect.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We have to get going here, Cassie Jaye. We'll have you back soon. Where is the best place for people to find, or there's an iTunes special right now?
Yeah, and so 99 cents rental sale on iTunes in U.S. and Canada, and that goes on until July 24th.
There you go. That is Cassie Jaye. We must go, hey, look what I can do. I just learned this not that long ago. Cassie Jaye, we'll see you later. We'll be back.
It just isn't done that well. handsome. No, not you. Oh, Lord, no, I'm talking about that snazzy t-shirt. Looks like someone's been dropping some coin at louderwithcrowdershop.com. Now, come near, let the world see, don't be shy. There we go, that's what I'm talking about. Oh, now, someone's trying to be a sneaky fellow. Let's go, wear that bad boy loud and proud. Nothing to be ashamed of here. Say, what's the big idea? Stop kidding around and show everybody your swag. Don't make me come down there. Well, now your t-shirt just says socialism, which is far more embarrassing. There we go. See, nothing to be afraid of. Available exclusively at louderwithcrowdershop.com. Mug clubbers are almost never beaten up for wearing a long-sleeve socialism is for fags t-shirt. Unless, of course, you're sickly looking and lacking self-confidence. And that's why we now sell long-sleeve versions. Perfect for those cool summer nights and covering up a lifetime of gym avoidance and poor decisions. Get yours now at louderwithcrowdershop.com. That's louderwithcrowdershop.com. Because anywhere else would be pure faggotry.
Show so I can have a turn on the TV.
Geez, you can fit back in your f***ing wedding dress. Brought back the dead man dance. It's been a while. People are saying, when's the floating dance? The dead man's float.
The dead man's float.
By the way, did you ever
do tail of the toad?
Did you ever do that as a kid, where you do the dead man's float to see, like, maybe they think I'm drowning? How will they react?
Yeah, I did actually. I think every kid did that.
I think every kid did that.
Yeah.
Till my dad said, "You're an idiot." Because once you're actually drowning, which will probably happen because you're a moron, I won't even care.
It's true.
It's true.
That's why I was the oldest, and they made more of me.
Yes, they made an example of you.
Yep.
In front of the other ones, like, listen, the next time you make a mistake, I'm going to beat Jared. Thanks so much to Cassie Jaye, Ben Shapiro. Tweet me at SCrowder. Leave your comments here on YouTube as to what you want to see as far as a collaborative, probably with Cassie Jaye.
Yeah.
Or if you're on SoundCloud. By the way, I just got some news on SoundCloud. Apparently, there's something going wrong with SoundCloud, iTunes, so we may need to find a new provider for the podcast. But if you're a Mug Club member.
Sounds like more work.
We have all the audio going to be in the Mug Club. We're actually going to be moving this whole thing to the same platform as like the NFL, UFC, ESPN. I think
thanks for being
ABC.
patient with us out there, because it's taken a lot of work, but we're getting there.
Well, it costs millions of dollars. No joke, it costs millions of dollars to get an app where you have the ability to play it anywhere, to get it on Roku, to get it on Apple, to be streaming it, casting it. So it costs millions of dollars. That's not an exaggeration. So you joining Mug Club is what makes us able to actually up the quality to the point where it's as good as anything on network television, only you have a direct line to us. That's what's kind of cool. You raise the quality, but you still keep the accessibility.
Exactly.
Ben Shapiro's mug sucks. Don't buy it.
Yeah, his mug is awful.
Yes, it is a terrible mug.
It's the worst mug I've probably ever seen.
Like Ben Shapiro, but I don't like his mug. But I want some of that shekels. So,
no.
We'll have Cassie Jaye back on soon. We have Deborah, whatever her name is, from BART. We have her on Monday. I'm surprised she's going right into lines. And listen, this is I had my 30th birthday, so I was going. I talked about this on Monday. But obviously, way more of you are watching here because so many of you are cheapskates. But we appreciate you just as well. Just, we're not making any money because YouTube decides they want to screw us. Not even. And someone asked me, what's the most important lesson you've learned, do you think, in turning 30? And I realized I think it's honestly doing something as hard as you possibly can, consistently, pushing your limits. I've learned more in pushing my limits in a controlled environment about myself and about the world probably than I have in any other case. That's how, think about it, it's how you get stronger, that's how you get faster, that's how you get smarter. I mean, pushing yourself within the constraints of not hurting yourself. Pushing yourself to your absolute limits in private so that you don't break yourself in public. And a lot of people I've realized have gone through their life and never done that. You know, how many people out there how many of you can honestly say to yourself that you lifted enough weight to the point where you were struggling, that your nose actually bled? How many of you can say that you ran as fast as you could until you puked? How many of you can say that you studied as hard as you possibly could to the point where you actually started borderline hallucinating? You feel a physical vibration in your head where you're mentally broken. How many people out there can? Now, some people can. For the people who can't say yes, I'm not saying this to chastise you. I'm saying this because it'll change your life. That is where I have learned the most about myself. And I was thinking about this because it was spurred on by, I was at the gym, and this CrossFitter girl had a shirt on that said, "Limits? I've never seen mine yet." Now, for anyone who knows me, you know that I'm not a huge fan of bullshit. So I said, "Oh, like your shirt." "Yeah, it's great, isn't it? No limits." I said, "Yeah. Can you bench 350? She said, "No." "Is that a limit?" So it's one thing to have a bumper sticker slogan, but this is from people who don't know. It's like people who come into when you're doing jiu-jitsu is a good example. I'm using physical examples because these are things that I do, but it could be basketball, whatever it is that you do. It could be Sudoku, it could be chess competitions. But we'd have people come in with shirts that say, "I never tap." Guess what? They tap. They submit early and often because they're new to something. But people who wear these shirts, people who love the bumper sticker slogans, people who really thrive on sound bites, these are people who've never tested themselves, because you have to know what your limits are. And you can only know your limits if you've actively tested them. I was talking with my wife about this. She works in a furniture industry. And with textiles, think about this for a second. It'll say like mercerized cotton, I think is a term. I could be butchering it. And it's a cotton that's dipped in a certain, I think, alkaline solution. It makes it softer, and it makes it 25% stronger. Think of anything that whether it's a Tupperware container.
Is there a bath of that I can find somewhere?
Yeah. Think of this where any kind of a material or a fabric, right, where you see it advertised 25% stronger, 50% stronger, or longer lasting. When someone is making that claim, whether it's a person or whether it's a commodity, how do they know that? The only way they know to the T that it's 25% stronger is because they broke it. So you can only know when you're about to break, you can only know how to break yourself or how someone else can break you once you've done it yourself. And I've been dealing with some stuff recently. We can't necessarily get into all of it. In identifying weaknesses, there's another thing too. So I don't mean to be like a beta male who, "It's good to cry and be weak." No. You should never take pride in your weaknesses, okay? But you should be honest, and you should have a healthy enough ego to address your weaknesses. Again, this comes with pushing yourself. This is just me, 30 years old, was thinking about all of it. There's probably more strength in identifying and working on your weaknesses than any other action you can take. So weakness in and of itself is not a virtue. It's not something to be proud of. We've gotten into a culture where people just say, this is my weaknesses, take me as I am. No, that's not what I'm saying. But being able to identify it and say, you know what, I don't know, maybe I'm not super educated. You know what, maybe I'm emotionally unavailable. Maybe I'm not the best husband. Maybe I'm a weakling who can barely bench press the bar. You never know. Whatever it is,
it's a lot.
Identifying your weaknesses can be one of your greatest strengths. And that's relative. That's the beauty of it. People who are accomplished, when you look at them, they're not people who say, everyone can do it, it's easy, or they're not elitist. This idea of testing yourself to your maximal capacity, knowing what your limits are, instead of a t-shirt that says, limits, I haven't met them yet, then you haven't tried. Every person who's successful has met their limits, has gone past the limits and broken themselves and taken some time to recover from it. You need to do that. Everyone needs to do that at some point in their life. So if you're wondering right now and you're teetering on, is it the safe bet? Is it not? Every now and then, and I don't mean it in the gangster term, break yourself, fool. It is important that in a controlled environment where you can do it safely, break yourself so you know where that point is and someone else doesn't do it for you. Because I tell you what, if you don't do it yourself, someone will be glad to take you up on that opportunity. That's probably the most valuable lesson I learned in my first 30 years. You tell me, leave it in the comment section or tweet me at SCrowder. See you Monday. Mug Club members, Thursday for Cheat Days.